Hi everyone, this is Long Vo. Today is June the 30th, 2012. I'm analyzing an online chess game on chess.com that I'm playing. I'm playing white. I'm currently rated 1158 and my opponent is rated 1275. So let's get started. So I like to play e4. My opponent plays the Sicilian with c5, and I go knight to f3. Then he goes knight to c6, and I go d4. Then he goes c takes d, and knight takes d4. Then he develops his knight to f6. Then I develop my knight to c3, defending the e-pawn. And so he pushes with e5, threatening my knight. So then I go d knight takes c6. So then he goes b takes c6. I think he could have taken with the d pawn instead and developed both files for his bishop, but anyways, that's what he chose. So I develop my bishop to c4, and he develops his bishop to b4, pinning my knight. And now I develop my bishop to g5, pinning his knight. Because I guess if my knight is pinned, he has the idea of taking the e-pawn here. So now he castles. And I go queen to f3, applying even more pressure on the knight. And also developing my queen with the idea of castling queenside. So now he takes, bishop takes c3, and instead of messing up my pawn structure, I took with my queen. So queen takes c3, and so he defends rook to e8, defending his e-pawn. So I castle queenside, and he goes bishop to b7. So now I decided to try to perhaps double up my rooks here, and also adding a little bit more pressure on the knight here. And the queen is X-raying the knight, so I was thinking perhaps I could do something on that side. And also I blocked the d pawn from developing. So he goes queen to e7, threatening my rook, and I go rook h to d1. So I had the idea of doubling my my rooks there, and my next step could be to take the d pawn because the knight is pinned to the queen. So perhaps he could have gone queen to c7 instead of to e7. So he decides to defend his pawn with rook to d8. So now I take with bishop. So bishop takes f6. And obviously he's not going to take with his queen. So I knew that, and that would... so he took with the g pawn. So g takes f6, and now his king here, the g file is open. So instead of delivering check, I decided to attack the f pawn. Now this is a double pawn, so it has no defense, and I wasn't in a hurry to attack the king because right now the king is extremely weak. So I decided to attack the f pawn instead, because now my rook is there as well. So it goes king to g7 to defend the pawn. Now I deliver check, improving my queen's position with a queen g4 check. And then he retreats the king to h8. So now his king is in a pretty bad position. So I further improve my queen's position with queen to f5, threatening the f pawn again. Right here the difference is because I'm closer to his king, and I am exerting pressure on the h pawn here, and here because actually these two pawns are like backwards. They have no other pawns to defend them, so this becomes an outpost for my queen. And his rooks are pretty stuck in the back there, so nothing can really kick out my queen, and the bishop here is really not very active. So rook to g8, trying to find some counterplay on the king side here. So at this point, my pawns are not that important because I'm focusing on the attack. So rook takes f6. So now his other f7 pawn is hanging. So he defends with d5. So I knew that if I took here, he wouldn't be able to take my bishop right away, right? So rook takes f7, threatening the queen. Also, I'm threatening checkmate here. So it's like a double threat. So queen to g5 check. Obviously at this point he's offering an exchange here. So either I take with the queen or move the king. So queen takes g5. So at this point I thought I had no choice because if I move the king, then he would so let's say I move the king, then he takes the queen, then I take back, and then he would get the bishop. So I felt I had no choice there. So I took with the queen. Then rook takes g5. I'm still in a stronger position, I find, because his bishop here is also hanging. So rook takes b7. And I knew at this point that if he took my bishop, then his other rook is hanging, so I thought that was the right decision. So rook takes g2. E takes d. C takes d. And bishop takes d5. So right here, threatening his rook, right? And right here I have a huge lead in development. Well, not development, but in having active pieces. I'm up a piece. I have more pawns, and all his pawns are isolated. So rook takes f2. And rook takes a7. and he takes rook takes h2. So you know, he's doing well. He gobbled up all my my pawns on this side, and now he's only down by one pawn and a piece. So this was a chance for me to exchange. So rook to a8, pinning his rook. So he doesn't really have a choice here. So rook takes a8, and bishop takes a8. So he's trying to centralize his king with king to g7. So bishop to e4, blockading his e pawn, also threatening the h pawn. So h5, rook to d5, threatening the e pawn. King to f6. So now I start pushing. Because the rook is on the second rank here, I thought that if I move the middle pawn, perhaps later on I could use the c pawn as like a shield to advance my king. And if I keep pushing here, it would exert a lot of pressure on him, and so he would need to decide if he wants to keep defending this pawn or going after my my pass pawn. So right now I have 3 pass pawns. So he decides to attack the bishop. So rook to h4. So this move I didn't really see, right? So maybe the b4 was a bad move, right? So so now my so my bishop is threatened, but luckily for me, this pawn here is also hanging. So bishop to f3. So rook takes b4 and bishop takes h5. So now my pass pawns are no longer connected. So he decides to go after it with rook to a4. So king to b2 and rook to a7. So I'm not sure why he went there. So I keep pushing my pawns. So c4, defending the rook. So now this becomes an outpost for my rook, and there's nothing he can do to move it, right? Besides exchanging his other rook. So king to e6. So I know now that my rook is safe, so it doesn't matter. So king to b3. E4. And as long as my rook is there, this pawn here and my bishop's here, this pawn can't really go anywhere. So I wasn't worried about the pawn. So a4, e3, a5. So now I know that my rook is defending the pawn there, so I decided to push, and I didn't want to move my king too far away just in case I needed it for to attack the e pawn. So that's like a waiting move. Rook to a8. So I decide to start attacking his pawn now. So now this pawn is safe, my rook is safe. So king to c3, and then he goes rook to b8, with the idea of protect, or perhaps bringing the rook down here to help protect the pawn. So king to d4, because I didn't want him to gain a temple if he checks me this way, right? So rook to b3, defending the pawn. But now because my king is also protecting the rook, so I start using the rook. So rook to e5 check. So king to d6. So now the pawn is hanging, right? So rook takes e3. And obviously he doesn't want to exchange because, or else he has a losing position. So rook to b4, threatening the c pawn. And there's nothing he can really do at this point, so rook to e5, blocking off his king from coming down. Well, he can't because my king is there, but further protecting this pawn and really blocking his the fifth rank there. So rook to a4, attacking the a pawn, so it won't be able to advance. So now I saw that his rook is on a light square, and I could somehow, if I could get his king here on c6, I could deliver check and then capture the rook. So I go rook to d5, and at this point I didn't care which way he went, because if he goes to the e file, his king becomes isolated from my pawns, and then it's simply a matter of time before I queen. So he did go where I wanted him to go, so he went king to c6, which was perfect for me to deliver check. But I guess he should have known that I have a light squared bishop, and he should try to perhaps stay on the dark squares. So I go bishop to e8 check, and then he resigns. Right, so at this point there's nothing else he can do, and he can move, and then that would have been the end of it.